Your resume feels exaggerated, the interviewer said flatly. I doubt you've truly led major global accounts like these. My stomach nodded as 16 years of effort were swept aside in a single breath. The pressure of mounting bills and an empty savings account bore down as I sat up straighter. Every achievement is accurate, I said evenly. The market turnaround strategy I led. Anyone can list numbers, she interrupted with a dismissive smirk. Without a big-name firm to validate it, it's all just storytelling. Less than a year ago, I was overseeing expansion projects across 4 continents. Then, new leadership at our firm decided to replace seasoned professionals with their inner circle. Now, this was my 74th interview, and the skepticism was always the same. She tapped her pen against the page. This client roster. Honestly, it reads like fiction. Right then, the door opened. A sharply dressed man stepped in, paused, and stared at me. It's you, he said, eyes lighting up. The strategist who saved our product line last spring. No one else thought it had a chance. Your insights changed everything. The interviewer froze. He turned to her. That's why I'm here. We're ready to triple our investment with your firm, but only if she's on your team. Is she? Before I go on, let me ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated? Brushed off before you could even speak? If so, keep watching, because what happened next didn't just change my life. It shifted the way this industry saw talent. My name is Delaney Shore. I was 45 when I walked into that room in San Diego, California, with nothing but my experience and persistence. I'd grown up in a small Oregon town where girls weren't expected to chase careers. I waited tables, worked weekends, and earned my MBA on pure grit. I had a knack for spotting patterns others missed, translating those into profit. But to the woman across from me, Sabrina Langford, head of talent at Ridgemont Partners, it had all meant nothing until Elias McCann walked through that door. The sharpness in her tone dissolved. Well, this is certainly unexpected, Sabrina said, adjusting her glasses. Elias isn't exactly known for giving out praise. She leaned forward. Tell me more about your work with his company. I took a calm breath. I designed their Southeast Asian market entry strategy last spring. She blinked. Weren't there significant concerns about cultural barriers? Exactly. Their former consultants recommended against expansion. But I uncovered specific regional trends and behavioral patterns they overlooked. Sabrina nodded, eager now, as though she hadn't just questioned my entire career. Fascinating. And the results: 37% growth in the first 2 quarters. Their leadership team told me it doubled their forecasts. Impressive, she said, scribbling furiously into her notebook. We'll need to accelerate your application. Given your background, we may consider you for the senior director role. Compensation would be substantial. The shift from skepticism to admiration was dizzying. Just minutes ago, she'd all but accused me of lying. Now I was a prime candidate. This role demands someone who commands respect, she added. She didn't notice the irony. The critic across the table had morphed into an enthusiastic advocate, rewriting reality as if she'd never dismissed me. As she detailed next steps, my thoughts drifted back to nearly 9 months earlier. I had been executive strategy director at Stratavance Global when a private equity firm swooped in. One Tuesday morning, the new CEO, Malcolm Voss, summoned me. Delaney, your record is impeccable, he said while scrolling his phone. But we're moving toward a leadership culture that better fits our aggressive vision. Translation: they were clearing out experienced women. Within 6 weeks, all 6 female VPs, including me, were replaced by younger men from Malcolm's inner circle. Their credentials, minimal, but their loyalty, unquestioned. The severance was generous, meant to silence, not reward. At first, I was sure I'd rebound quickly. But after 74 interviews, I'd faced dozens of Sabrinas, people who couldn't reconcile my competence with their idea of who should be competent. We can likely send an offer by tomorrow, Sabrina was saying. Elias's input makes this a near certainty. I met her eyes. That's quite the change in perspective. She gave a tight laugh. Elias is our biggest account. His word carries a lot of weight, and mine didn't. Her smile froze. I hope you understand, Sabrina said stiffly, that we have to be diligent in our vetting. A lot of candidates exaggerate. You weren't being diligent, I said, voice calm. You decided I wasn't qualified the moment I walked in. That's not true, she replied quickly, a flush creeping up her neck. I was just asking tough questions. You called my results far-fetched and questionable. That's not tough questioning. That's accusation. Sabrina busied herself straightening a stack of papers that didn't need fixing. Perhaps there was a miscommunication, she said. What matters now is that we're very interested in moving forward. I picked up my portfolio slowly. I appreciate that. When can I expect next steps? I'll call you personally by tomorrow afternoon, she said, clearly relieved. And to her credit, she did. The next day, she offered me a compensation package far above the initial range. I asked for the weekend to consider it. She agreed enthusiastically. That weekend changed everything. Saturday morning, I sat at my kitchen counter staring at the letter. The money would fix a lot of things, but it didn't fix the doubt that lingered. I thought about the dozens of highly qualified women over 40 who didn't have an Elias McCann to vouch for them. My phone buzzed. A message from Nishtha Dar, my former colleague from Stratavance. We met for coffee every month since the layoff. Still good for tomorrow. Got something big to share? Her text read. Sunday morning at our favorite cafe in La Jolla. She was practically glowing. At 56, she had the clarity of someone who'd seen it all and the energy of someone ready to build something new. I've been consulting with 3 former clients, she said, and they all asked the same question. Why doesn't a firm exist that blends real data with cultural nuance? I nodded. It was the same frustration we'd had at Stratavance numbers, without empathy. So, I've been thinking, she continued, leaning forward. What if we built that firm? You, me, maybe Yara too. Start our own company, I asked. Exactly. Between us, we know people in 4 continents. I pulled the Ridgemont offer from my bag and slid it across the table. Nishtha scanned it and gave a low whistle. Impressive number, Nishtha said, scanning the offer again. But your face says you're not sold. I sighed. Sabrina spent 20 minutes telling me my experience didn't hold up until Elias walked in and made me suddenly indispensable. And now they're chasing you? Nishtha raised an eyebrow. Classic. You walk in with credentials and they don't believe you. A man walks in and validates you, and now you're gold. If I accept, I said I'm walking into another firm where my worth is defined by who co-signs it, not what I've built. She slid the letter back across the table. So what's your alternative? For the first time in nearly a year, adrenaline sparked. Maybe you just gave it to me. Over the next 3 hours, we outlined what would become Lumen Strategy Group, a consultancy for regions the big firms dismissed as too complex, too unfamiliar, places where success required more than just numbers, it required listening. If this story moved you even a little, hit that subscribe button, because what comes next will challenge everything you thought you knew about success power and second chances. By Monday morning, I had written a polite decline to Ridgemont. I called Yara and 2 other former colleagues who'd also been pushed aside when Stratavance changed hands. Sabrina's reply came within minutes. Disappointing. Would you reconsider if we revise the compensation Elias specifically asked about you this morning? This isn't about money, I typed back. Thank you for your time. The next 6 months building Lumen were exhausting and thrilling. We pooled our severance funds and worked from Nishtha's garage in Chula Vista. We tapped every connection we had for meetings. Our first breakthrough came from Damon Reeves, a mid-level manager from a workshop I'd led 5 years ago. He'd heard I'd launched something new. My team wants to expand into Southeast Asia, but consultants keep saying it's too risky, he said. Would you consider giving us a second opinion? The budget was small, but the opportunity huge. We spent 3 weeks crafting a detailed analysis that pinpointed entry points traditional models had missed. When we presented, the room shifted. 2 VPs arrived mid-meeting. One stayed after to say, "This is what we've been trying to say, but no one could explain it like this." That single project led to 3 more. By month 4, we had 2 new analysts and a real office. Then came the Global Market Summit that changed everything. We presented a series of case studies showing how conventional analysis models consistently undervalued key global regions and overlooked diverse consumer segments. What we didn't know was that Elias McCann was in the audience. When the Q&A began, Elias stood up. "Your methodology contradicts everything the major firms have been telling my board," he said. "How confident are you in your projections?" I recognized him instantly, but kept my tone steady. "Our models have outperformed traditional forecasts by 23 to 41% in these markets. Every insight shared today is backed by measurable data." Elias gave a knowing smile. "You turned our numbers around last year. I recommended you personally to Ridgemont. I'm surprised you're not with them." The room went still. Ridgemont Partners was a primary sponsor of the summit. Their CEO was scheduled to deliver tomorrow's keynote. "I chose a different direction," I replied simply. Elias nodded. "Well, their loss is our gain. My team would like to explore working with you again. Are you taking new clients?" he added. "Selectively," I answered. The buzz began the moment the session ended. Attendees who had skipped our presentation started requesting one-on-one meetings. Trade journalists shifted their attention from the big firms to Lumen's strategy group. But the moment that changed everything came at that evening's networking reception. I was deep in conversation with a prospective client when I spotted Sabrina Langford across the room. Standing beside her was Gerard Walsh, CEO of Ridgemont. His jaw was tight as Elias walked straight toward me. Delaney Elias called loud enough to quiet the nearby chatter. "I've spoken with our board. We're shifting our entire APAC strategy to Lumen." Sabrina's face paled. "That's a substantial portfolio," I said, conscious of the eyes on us. "Worth every penny based on your track record," Elias replied. "And frankly, we're not happy with the narrow thinking from our current consultant." I could feel Sabrina's glare as she whispered something urgently to Gerard. "We'd be honored," I said. Elias nodded. "Oh, and fair warning, I've mentioned you to several others. Expect calls." As he walked away, Gerard and Sabrina closed in on him, whispering with urgency. Elias just shook his head. Later that night, Gerard approached me at the bar. "Delaney Shore." "Right. I believe there was some confusion during your interview." "No confusion," I said evenly. "Your talent officer made her opinion very clear until Elias shifted her perspective." Gerard winced slightly. "Sometimes our internal processes don't do a great job surfacing exceptional talent. I'd like to offer a personal apology and see if there's still room to work together." I met his eyes without blinking. "I appreciate that, but Lumen is my focus now." "Perhaps a strategic partnership," he offered quickly. "Your boutique model and our global footprint could complement each other." Before I could respond, Nishtha appeared beside me. "Sorry to interrupt, Delaney. Our next meeting's waiting." There was no meeting, but her timing flawless. "Of course," I said, turning to Gerard. "It was good speaking with you." That conference became the inflection point for Lumen Strategy Group. 3 months later, we had contracts with 7 major clients, Elias's company included. Our team grew to 17 people, not chosen solely for resumes or alma maters, but for perspective, adaptability, and vision. And if you're enjoying this story, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We bring you real stories every week about professionals who were overlooked until they transformed entire industries. Your support helps us shine a light on talent that too many companies ignore. Now let me tell you what came next, because the real shift had just begun. With rapid growth came the need for new space. We found a high-ceilinged former textile warehouse in East Village, the kind of place with exposed brick, natural light, and potential. I had one requirement: a glass-walled conference room facing the main floor. At Lumen, transparency wouldn't just be a buzzword, it would be part of the architecture. 6 months after the summit, our client list had tripled. We had 28 team members now, each one hired not just for what they knew, but for how they thought. Vera, our research director, had been rejected by over a dozen firms despite publishing one of the most accurate forecasting models of the decade. Milo, a former high school teacher in his 60s, brought empathy and psychology to our pitch strategy, and clients loved it. We flipped the traditional consulting playbook. Instead of forcing local data through Western frameworks, we did the opposite, and the results were undeniable. Then one Tuesday morning, just over a year into Lumen's journey, Yara came flying into my office, tablet in hand. "You need to see this?" Yara said, placing her tablet in front of me. The headline on the industry newsletter read, "Ridgemont launches Horizon Markets Division." The article described a new strategic unit focused on overlooked international regions with cultural depth language nearly identical to what we used on Lumen's own site. "They're copying our entire model," Yara muttered, arms crossed. I skimmed the article. "Guess who's running it? Who's Sabrina Langford?" Yara's eyebrows lifted. "Seriously? The same Sabrina who said your background was questionable. The very one." Later that afternoon, Nishtha appeared in my doorway, concern on her face. "I just found out Ridgemont is meeting with 3 of our clients offering similar services, undercutting us by 30%. They're playing the long game," I said, "willing to bleed money to take our clients. But they can't duplicate our thinking or our team," Nishtha said. "Let's finalize the assessment framework." Our inclusive assessment framework, designed to surface hidden talent through challenge-based evaluation, had been in beta for months. "It's not fully polished," she warned. "Then we polish it faster." This wasn't just competition now. It was a battle of philosophies. We worked day and night refining the system. When we tested it with a tech firm's hiring panel, the results were remarkable. Candidates who'd been rejected using traditional filters excelled in our simulations. These applicants would have been passed over. The director said, stunned. "But they're exceptional." "Exactly," I said. "Talent doesn't follow a script." Word spread fast. While Ridgemont focused on mimicking our market tactics, we shifted the entire conversation. We weren't just about reaching unseen markets, we were about finding the people who could lead them. 2 months later, I received an email from Darian Winters, Ridgemont's Client Services Director. He requested a meeting. I agreed out of curiosity. Darian arrived sharply dressed, yet visibly nervous. After exchanging pleasantries, he got to the point. "Our board would like to discuss acquiring Lumen's strategy group," he said. "There's strong interest in combining our reach with your innovation." I kept my face neutral. "Interesting." "What prompted this conversation?" "Your growth," he replied. "It's made a lot of people in our space nervous." "Your methodologies." Darian said, "Especially your talent assessment framework have drawn significant attention in the industry. The same framework Ridgemont is now trying to replicate." I asked. He shifted slightly. "There may have been some parallel development, but our leadership sees your team's approach as uniquely valuable." "I see." "And who initiated the acquisition proposal?" "It came from the board," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Gerard Walsh is personally interested in exploring terms with you." I nodded. "You can let Gerard know I'm open to a conversation on one condition. I want whoever will oversee integration present from the start." "That would be Sabrina Langford," Darian said. "She's now Executive Vice President of Strategy and Integration." I smiled slightly. "Perfect. Please schedule it." After Darian left, Yara and Nishtha wasted no time. "Are you really considering selling to them?" Yara asked, shocked. "I'm considering hearing what they have to say," I replied. Nishtha studied my face. "You're planning something. I'm curious how Sabrina will handle this meeting." The meeting was set for the following Thursday at Ridgemont's downtown office. I arrived 15 minutes early, joined by Nishtha and our newly hired legal counsel, Imani Cortez. A receptionist guided us to a spacious glass-walled conference room where Gerard Walsh greeted us with practiced warmth. Sabrina stood just behind him, her smile thin. "Delaney, great to see you again," Gerard said. "Thank you for the invitation," I replied. "You remember Nishtha, my co-founder and chief intelligence officer. And this is Imani, our general counsel." Once we were seated, I turned to Gerard. "Before we begin, I'd like to understand your vision for Lumen post-acquisition. Specifically, how do you see our team and methods integrating?" Gerard nodded towards Sabrina. "We'd position Lumen as our innovation arm," she said smoothly. "Your frameworks would be implemented globally, with your team facilitating knowledge transfer." "And the talent framework?" I asked. "It's an exciting initiative," Sabrina said. "But we'd need to align it with our recruitment standards to maintain quality." I noted how carefully she avoided the core truth that our framework existed to challenge those very standards she upheld. Could you elaborate on what you mean by quality consistency? I asked. Sabrina offered a strained smile. Ridgemont has built its brand on a particular caliber of professional. While we value innovative thinking, we have to preserve the standards our clients rely on. Interesting, I said. And who would be responsible for ensuring that alignment? My division, she replied smoothly. We'd collaborate closely with your team during integration, but all final hiring decisions would follow Ridgemont's existing protocols. Gerard jumped in quickly. We're prepared to present a highly competitive, equity-based offer. Your team would receive significant retention bonuses, and you personally would step into a senior leadership role. Reporting to? I asked. To Sabrina, he said. As EVP of Strategy and Integration, she oversees all specialized divisions. I nodded slowly. Thanks for the clarification. Before we talk numbers, there's something I'd like to share. I opened my laptop and turned it toward them. This is a time-lapse visualization of client performance after implementing our strategies compared to industry averages over the past 18 months. The graphs lit up with clear upward momentum. Both Gerard and Sabrina leaned in visibly, surprised by the scale of the results. These aren't slight improvements, I continued. They represent structural transformation driven by a different kind of thinking. Very impressive, Gerard murmured. Now, let me show you something else. I clicked to another slide. This highlights the demographic and experiential makeup of the teams responsible for those outcomes compared to industry norms. The visual contrast was undeniable. Lumen didn't succeed in spite of our talent model, I said. We succeeded because of it, because we don't try to fit talent into old templates. We build around what makes people different. Sabrina's smile tightened. Diversity initiatives are important, of course, she said cautiously, but our standards are in place to maintain client confidence. I met her gaze. Are those the same standards that led you to call my credentials far-fetched in our interview? Silence fell over the room. Gerard glanced at her sharply. I think there was some misunderstanding. That day Sabrina offered. There wasn't, I said. You dismissed my achievements until someone else validated them. Now you want that same judgment applied to my team. Gerard cleared his throat. Perhaps we should shift to the financial terms of the acquisition. Actually, I said I have a counter-proposal. I pulled a folder from my bag and slid it across the table. These are Lumen's terms for even considering an acquisition. Gerard flipped to the first page, his brows lifting. This is unconventional. So is our company, I replied. Sabrina's expression tightened as she read. This calls for Lumen to remain an independent division with full control over hiring and methodology. Correct? I said. Gerard turned another page. And this clause proposes the creation of a new department dedicated to inclusive hiring with authority to override our current recruitment processes. Also, correct. Sabrina's tone dropped. This dismantles Ridgemont's entire talent structure. It transforms it, I corrected. And the transformation is based on outcomes your own team couldn't replicate. Gerard glanced at the final page. And you would personally lead this department? Yes, with executive authority and a direct reporting line to the board. Sabrina set the document down. This is unacceptable. You're demanding control over how Ridgemont hires at every level. I'm offering a framework that identifies excellence wherever it exists, I said evenly, something your current process consistently misses. Gerard looked conflicted. Delaney, your performance speaks volumes, but this goes far beyond a typical acquisition. You approached us, I reminded him, because our results are rooted in a different lens. If you want those results, you need to embrace that lens. We'll need time to review this internally, he said, gathering the documents. Of course, I replied. We'll be here. 3 days later, Darian requested another meeting. This time, Gerard arrived alone. Your proposal caused quite a debate, he said as we sat down in my office. Sabrina is strongly opposed. I expected that. But the board reviewed your data, he continued, and the impact is undeniable. He handed me a revised version. They've authorized me to continue with modifications. Your framework remains, but its scope is narrower, and the rollout timeline is extended. This is major change for Ridgemont, he said. The board just needs assurance. It's done right. And Sabrina, I asked. Gerard hesitated. She's voiced strong reservations, Gerard admitted, but she'll support the board's decision. Over the next 2 weeks, we negotiated the final terms. The agreement upheld my condition. Lumen's inclusive talent division would operate independently with significant decision-making power. The implementation timeline was lengthened, but included firm benchmarks to track progress. A month later, we made the acquisition public. Industry media buzzed over the unusual deal, one that preserved our autonomy while reshaping Ridgemont's entire approach to talent. On my first official day at Ridgemont headquarters, I arrived early for the all-hands meeting where Gerard would introduce me and outline the talent initiative. As I arranged my slides, Sabrina Langford stepped into the room. "Congratulations on your new position," she said coolly. "Thank you," I replied. "I'm looking forward to working together." She offered a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Let me be clear. I may have misjudged you personally, but Ridgemont standards exist for good reason. Not everyone who claims to be exceptional truly is." "I agree," I said calmly. "That's why our department uses data, not assumptions." Just remember, she warned, client trust relies on maintaining professionalism. "Like dismissing candidates based on first impressions," I asked. Her jaw tightened. "I've been in this field 20 years, she snapped. "My talent judgments built this firm." "Then you'll appreciate this: great systems evolve when data tells a different story. And that data shows your judgments missed some extraordinary people. My role is to close that gap. We'll see how the board feels after 6 months of your experiments." "They're not experiments," I said. "They're proven methods. And the results will speak." An hour later, as staff filled the auditorium, I stood beside Gerard. Sabrina sat in the front row, her face neutral. I began. "Some of you wonder why Ridgemont acquired Lumen and agreed to such unconventional terms. The answer is simple: because excellence doesn't always look like we expect. I walked through data, our hires, our outcomes, our redefinition of potential. And while some executives bristled, the results became undeniable. 6 weeks in our first hires outperformed legacy teams across every department. The transformation had started, and no one could ignore it anymore. "The team you assembled," Sabrina said quietly, "they identified opportunities no one else saw. They did exceptional work." I nodded. "One of those analysts, Teresa, I believe you rejected her application?" "Twice." Sabrina looked away. "I did. Your system flagged her as a top match. She's brilliant." "Yes, she is." Sabrina folded her hands, staring at them. "I've been reviewing candidates I rejected over the past 5 years, many of whom were later hired through your department. The pattern is troubling. In what way I consistently dismissed people who didn't match a narrow profile even when they had the ability, including you." I said nothing, letting her finish. She inhaled slowly. "When you proposed the acquisition, was this your goal all along? Changing how talent gets identified?" I paused, then answered. "When you dismissed my background that day, you didn't just reject me. You reinforced a system that consistently ignores certain forms of excellence. My goal wasn't to take your seat. It was to stop that system from continuing to hurt people with real value to offer." Sabrina nodded, her posture softer. "I've requested a transfer to lead our Asia-Pacific division. But before I leave, I wanted you to know, I finally understand what you were trying to build." She stood to go. I called out gently, "Sabrina." She turned. "Excellence shows up in many forms. One of them is knowing when your judgment needs an update." A small, honest smile touched her lips. "Maybe that's the most important form of all." 2 years after we founded Lumen Strategy Group, what started as my search for validation had reshaped an industry. Ridgemont's inclusive hiring model became the benchmark. Competitors scrambled to keep up. A field once defined by exclusion had begun welcoming brilliance in all its forms. My revenge wasn't in defeating Sabrina or taking her title. It was in breaking down the silent filters that kept talented people out, so gatekeepers like her could never again dismiss someone like me. If you've made it this far, thank you for witnessing this journey with me. I didn't build Lumen's strategy group to get back at anyone. I built it because I was tired of being told I didn't belong in rooms I'd spent years earning my place in. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed because you didn't fit the mold, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment. Tell me how you rose, or how you're still fighting to be seen. I read every story, and I promise you, your voice matters here. Support means more than just views. It means helping amplify the idea that talent doesn't come in one shape, background, or resume. If you believe in that, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel so we can keep telling stories that challenge broken systems and rebuild better ones. And here's my advice. Don't wait for someone else to validate your worth. Your path may look different. Your timeline may be longer. But excellence doesn't need permission to exist. It just needs space to be recognized. Let's make that space together, because sometimes the best revenge is building what they told you never could exist.